Boobies!
Hi.
Hi, hello, welcome
To Boobies.
to Boobies.
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Caitlin, and we're your hosts.
We're here to talk about the spectacular, amazing horror movies that you like to watch and we like to talk about.
That's right, spooktacular fun of all the scary things.
Yeah.
Maybe not so scary. That we all love, hate, maybe.
There's a lot in between.
There is.
Horror is so big.
This film
of a genre.
particularly that we're covering
yeah.
today had a lot of not so great reviews when it first came out.
Yeah. But now it's a classic.
And now it is a classic. That's
We're
right.
Taking it back to 1980.
1980.
With
woohoo.
Stanley Kubrick's
That's a drum roll.
The Shining. I love that drum roll. That's a great drum roll. It's like guttural. It's like in the back of your throat.
Yeah, it was definitely made with my uvula.
Ooh, I can just see it like dangling back and forth back there, very fast. But yeah, today we're gonna be talking about The Shining. It kind of surprisingly, we haven't even covered it yet because
Yeah.
it's such a like kind of staple. I feel like in horror films,
It
and like
is.
even like the "Here's Johnny" meme and all that, and its references and all the references that
So
get
many
pulled from this movie
iconic-
and other shows, movies, cartoons. Like, yeah,
It has made its mark
it really has.
in media.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so many, like we were saying, iconic scenes that when they happen, you're just like, oh, damn, there it is. Like, even seeing it again, it was still really, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, honestly, yeah, same because I haven't seen it in a really long time.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah,
last
me
time I
neither.
watched it, I was probably like in high school. And I wasn't watching it to be like, analyze it or anything. So I just remember it being very long. And when I watched it this time, actually, it wasn't even as long as I like thought that
Yeah.
it was. It like actually went by pretty.
It does go by.
Yeah. But definitely it was so good. There were so many things that, especially like in looking up like, fun facts or things about the movie, like getting pointed out, especially because Stanley Kubrick was such a like very like there are no coincidences type of director. Like, and even if things look like it's a mistake, he did it on purpose to like have some sort of reason or make you think about it. So yeah, anyways, but yeah, overall 5 out of 5. No, I'm just kidding. Skips to the boobs.
It is
yeah.
the best thing.
But yeah, it was released in 1980, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was.
And it's based off of course, Stephen King's book, actually, with the same
very
name.
loosely.
Very,
based.
very loosely. Yeah, no.
This is definitely, it was marketed as Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, not
Instead of
Stephen
Stephen's.
King's.
Yeah.
Which there was a lot of the times marketers did avoid putting Stephen King's name on films because this is released in a time when horror movies were kind of seen as
The devil.
yeah, and just not like actual good cinema.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they weren't really they were just kind of like trash
Yeah.
that people just toss aside. And so
kind of even today, like with
Yeah.
award seasons and shit.
that's true.
But anyway.
And not as many people wanted to put Stephen King's name on it because it explicitly kind of made it a horror film. And so, but they didn't put Stephen King's name on this one because it is very, very different from the
Literally,
book.
yeah.
There's so many things that
That
just
are not.
never happen in the novel.
There's no maze.
Yeah, there's no maze.
There's no maze. There's hedge animals, but there's no maze.
That's right.
But
So many
yeah.
little things that
And there was beef between Steve and Mr. Stanley as well, because even
true.
Steven wrote a script for the movie and it did not. Stanley Kubrick didn't even look at it, I believe.
yes, he just tossed it aside and then went on to basically write another film or
He got
his
another
own
novelist.
script. Yes, with another novelist, Diane something.
Yeah, it's
Why-
crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He also King. So not only starting with that, which is like I would already be pretty pissed, like if it's my fucking book,
yeah,
and then it's not like being portrayed the way that I wanted it to be, I would be,
I would
pretty
be
fucking
miffed.
pissed.
Yeah.
And he also hated Jack Nicholson's like performance
He did, yeah.
of the scene.
Well,
Diane Johnson was the other screenwriter.
Gotcha.
And she was a novelist as well.
Yeah, he also just didn't like the portrayal or the writing of the character as well, because the character for him in the book was supposed to be more like warm and you're supposed to sympathize with the character. And with Jack
it's very
Torrance,
slow descent into madness.
And then,
this Jack Nicholson's Jack Torrance is
already mad.
right out the gate. He's like, I mean, his fucking eyebrows, they're
yeah.
Every time he smiles, it's like,
even like on the car ride with the
talking about the Donner family.
Yeah, and then like you should eat your breakfast. Like he's just very cold and like not warm with his family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not, it does not seem as if he's a family man.
Yeah.
Yes, very unsettling. Now, on the flip side, if you separate the two, the book and the movie, it's a fantastic movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson's performance is honestly one of the most captivating things I think I've ever seen. It is so unsettling. And you have seen, I mean, if you've been in a sort of toxic relationship, I think that's what makes it so terrifying, is that is entirely possible. The way he was talking and stuff and like hitting his head, like I've been
seen people talk like that.
Yeah.
Or treat you that way.
Yeah, talk to me that way.
Yeah.
And so it's just like,
yeah,
whoa,
he really
that's
made
so
me
scary.
hate the guy. He really made me hate Jack Torrance.
Yes.
Because I'm just like, man, like the way he's treating
fucking asshole.
Wendy, like, it was horrible. And Shelley Duvall too, as well. And I think that was like her only role ever. Or she did.
Yeah, she's not in a lot.
Yeah. Her performance to me as well. I enjoyed her whole like very like eyes all wide and like kind of surprised at everything.
Her screams were good.
Her screams were good. And even when she's like running around later and she's kind of just like with the little knife, like.
Yeah. I think
like,
I have a note that she's like, what the fuck is her running?
With the knife. Because specifically how she's holding the knife. It's very like Kendall Jenner holding the cucumber at the other end.
Oh, yeah. And when she's holding the bat, it's like, girl, you were holding that bat all wrong. You're not going to be able to hit him. Stay back.
Literally. But I and even little Danny, the little boy.
As we mentioned last week, Kesley mentioned that's one of her favorite facts about The Shining is Danny, played by, Danny played by...
Danny Lloyd?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Danny Lloyd. Which is so interesting that Danny was his name, and Jack and Jack, and anyways, but Danny had no clue he was playing a horror film. He just thought that he was in a sort of like family drama, and he wasn't even allowed to watch the film whenever it first released. He was shown a like 10-minute abbreviated version, basically, that was like for kids.
Wow. Yeah,
and it's like, here you go, this is what you were in,
and that's it. Aw,
which is so interesting.
Yeah. They were trying to prevent him from being traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so okay. There's even more about, especially Kubrick was so mean to Wendy, Shelley Duvall, during the filming, and she also wasn't. Her character was completely changed as well, not just Jack, by Kubrick. And it says Wendy Torrance's film adaptation was dramatically changed. Kubrick's version of Wendy portrays her as frail, emotionally weak, submissive, and vulnerable. And casting Shelley Duvall fresh off the heels from her roles in Three Women and Annie Hall. And unfortunately, Kubrick's decision to make Wendy Torrance appear weaker than King's character in the book had a permanent impact on Duvall, who Kubrick psychologically, dumb as hell, tormented on set to get the performance out of her desired. The famous scene of Wendy backing away from Jack on the stairs was shot a record number 127 takes.
Yeah.
Shredding Duvall's hands raw from gripping a baseball bat and suffering from dehydration from crying.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
It's very insane. And he did that for a lot of his like takes with the movies and shit. Like the scene with Danny talking to Dick in the kitchen, whatever. They did that over like 100 and something times as well. And and to where like even he was like, I can't do it. The actor was like, I can't do it anymore.
I cannot say these fucking words anymore.
Crothers,
yeah.
But yeah.
And King vocally was critical of Wendy's characterization as well, and he said it's one of the most misogynistic characters ever put on film, and he said she basically was just there to scream and be stupid, and that's not the woman that I wrote about, which is like, damn, good for you, King, for saying that. But I mean, she was still pretty resourceful. Now, was she as resourceful and stuff? No. Oh my god, I'm all
but that's also but also too, like, if you look at the perspective of like an abusive relationship, toxic relationship, she is literally the woman that is like, she doesn't even like, she's too scared to even speak up her mind around him. She's just very like,
because
what can I do for you?
Explosive.
Yeah.
And there's no telling what he's gonna do. He's already hurt their kid.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know.
That should have been but anyways, that's there's a lot that the movie represents on top of the horror. But yeah. Do you want to get into it?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. I really like the opening scene, how it's the drive up to the Overlook Hotel, and it's so cool, and like the menacing music and like this the sound escape. I forget what the soundscape behind it, like all the like little noises that they work into it.
Yeah.
I love it.
The soundtrack in this whole film is very it drives you like it honestly, well, it completely gives away everything because it basically tells you when you need to be scared. It's very cut, like it gets,
I get what you mean.
The music swells and all the exact places where any sort of jump
it's right where
scare
I want it
happens.
To be,
yeah, no, I mean it is good, but it doesn't. It's
you
just
think
very.
It should have been more.
No, I don't have any thing against it. It's just very much like telling you like, hey, something scary is about to happen, which is fine. That's totally fine. And then whenever it wasn't there, it was all very quiet and very like just good use of sound around.
Well, we know you love a good like quiet, like more leave mystery kind of vibe to it.
It still was a very good soundtrack. I liked it, and nothing seemed over the top. Like I never once thought like they literally should have left that out. No, like I still thought it was very good.
I liked throughout the movie, like all the like noises were very more like unconventional sounding to me. Like, you know, it happens. And look, it matches your outfit. Cute.
I love it.
And so
wear it forever.
I don't know. I just really liked all the different noises because it sounded like they were like, you know, like rubbing metal things together and like doing all these type of like really weird, you know, mixing of whatever type of materials to make the sounds. And
the
so,
very like practical sound effects.
I just really liked it. And then anyways, we get Mr. Jack Torrance arriving to the Overlook Hotel. He walks in, he's kind of taking a look around, and he gets to the receptionist, and he's like, I have a meeting. And she points him to that one, the manager's office, right?
Mr. Ullman.
And he is the first door to the left or right, whatever. But anyways, he goes there and he's like talking to him to the left. And I did write that, Mr. Ullman. And they're talking about a job. You know, apparently they're about to go into off season and they need a caretaker to take care of the facilities, make sure that everything's maintained, so that way when they come back, nothing, you know, is broken, and they have minimalize damage or whatever is what they call it.
Because it's very harsh winters, and so they need, it's apparently too harsh in order to maintain the roads to keep it open for people to come.
It's like 25 miles of road that they can't maintain.
That they would have to like basically sit there and constantly be shoveling
all that.
And now, I mean, it's probably different, but they did that. And then but with harsh winters and stuff, you can't just leave your house unattended. You know, pipes will burst, things like that. And so they basically need someone there to just kind of periodically heat up the place.
Which doesn't sound like a bad gig.
No, it doesn't. In a big fun hotel like that. I mean, it looked cool. I was in love with the carpet. Oh my God, all the carpet was so fucking cool. Yeah. I loved it.
Oh, I love the carpet too. All the design,
wallpaper
very
too.
kind of Art Deco-ish. Yeah.
It was very neat. Speaking of this room, though, the Mr. Ullman's office, it's an impossible room. So that window, he's got this big bright window in the back of it behind him. And it is, if you look at the layout of the hotel, it's right before you get to the elevators. And then so behind his office should be a corridor or the like elevators, and it's like a hallway. And so there should be no possible way that there's a window there, which is just pretty interesting. There's lots of theories. I watched
a few different like fan theories as well.
Did you watch 237, room 237?
Oh, I actually didn't see that one.
Okay.
But I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. So I watched that this morning, and
what happened? What's the theory?
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many, all from like covering up the Apollo moon landing or like faking that footage to multiple different theories on it being a like narrative on the Holocaust, as well as narrative on the like Native American peace pipes and stuff, and like just the kind of symbolism and the bloodshed of the Native Americans, and how just kind of the atrocities that happen when imperialism basically occurs.
Crimes against humanity.
Yeah. And then other ones like that it's just only about sex and stuff.
There's a lot of theories.
So many. And some of them were like, you are reaching so far.
Yeah.
So far.
Did you see the Wendy theory? About it was actually her losing her mind and Jack was normal the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, these ones were like, they're like, because he's wearing an Apollo 11 sweatshirt here. And then Jack Nicholson's like going off on his wife, like, did you ever think of one single time my responsibilities to my job and stuff? And was basically supposed to be Kubrick's vocalization to his wife about his involvement in faking the Apollo 11 moon landing. Yeah. And then basically, like, whenever she finds his book, the All Work and No Play Makes Jack a Dull Boy, it's like the realization of like what your partner would feel if they found out that you were involved in such a big thing. And
that's a lot. It's really deep.
That's a rabbit hole. I was like,
the scene where he blew up on her, actually, Jack Torrance, when she comes to check on him, and he's like, when you come in here, you mess up, and I have to, it takes me forever to get back to going, whatever. Jack apparently as well helped in writing that part of that scene because he had gone through a divorce like right before the movie or a little before the movie,
and he said that's how he was,
and that he was like that as well because he had a daughter. He was supposed to be like a good husband, but he had done like he was acting in a movie during the day and writing like a screenplay at night and like doing this other shit, and so
trying to balance family work.
That's hard.
Trying to be a family man. Yeah.
And he had a blow up moment like that on his wife. And so that's how that worked into the scene as well.
Probably not a good look for you. I don't know if I'd ever admit to that.
Right.
But anyways, back to the Overlook Hotel, which is where we are meeting with Mr. Ullman.
And he gets to talking, and they're talking about all the things that he would need to do. And he is basically kind of, it's like a almost normal job interview, but then we kind of we go back to
it seems he's already gotten the job,
right, for the most part, because it doesn't seem like they're even like really
asking him questions. They're more so just describing
this is what you're going to be doing.
And he's telling him facts about it, like that place was built in 1907, which again was another thing. There's like this theory on the appearance of the number 42 and then multiples of 7. And then so like with the thing being on July 4th, the 7th month, and then in 1921 and stuff.
People really be digging.
They do.
Oh my God.
At one point someone was like, there's an airbrush of Stanley Kubrick's face in the clouds. And I was like, no, there's not. Like they were playing it frame by frame, and I was like,
but you can get really lost in the conspiracies.
Oh, I know.
And the theories.
This was like, I don't know if you've like ever like gone down 1911, September 11, like conspiracy theory holes on YouTube.
Yeah.
It just like, it keeps going and you're just like, what the fuck did people pull
and then it
these
just
from?
freaks you, and then it also just freaks you out.
Yeah.
There's just so many. There's too many ideas.
There's way too many.
And so yeah, I think in my notes is, do we have like, is it going between Wendy and Danny and them interviewing?
I think so.
Yeah.
And because right before it cuts to them after he tells Jack about the 1970 tragedy where two little girls of 8 and 10. So that's the other thing is like everyone refers to the girls as the twins, the shining twins, you know?
Yeah.
And they're 8 and 10. They're not twins.
Yeah.
They are dressed identically, which I guess is why.
It makes it seem like they're twins.
But, and when you actually look at them too,
they look very similar.
Yes, but also very different. Like you can tell they're not. I mean, they could be fraternal. Is that what it's called?
Fraternal twins, yeah.
Yeah. They could be fraternal twins, but one clearly looks a little older. But he's telling Jack about this tragedy where two little girls of 8 and 10, a man and his wife, they all lived there for that time period from October until May, because they close October 30th is the last day of operation. So Halloween being the first day that they're closed, and until May 1st. So that's a long time.
That's a really long time.
It is. What, like 5 months?
I think so.
I don't know math. November, December, January, February, March, April, May.
I was like, that's
7.
I was like, that's more than 5 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Damn, that's like half a year.
Yeah.
That is half a
year.
year.
That's a long time to be by yourself.
Yes, it is. And but so it basically says that, you know, he lost his mind, killed his family with an axe, and then turns the gun on him, or gets a shotgun and then turns it on himself. And all of it because of cabin fever, it says. And someone says, I think Jack says like, oh, that would, never happen. I was like, oh, well,
you don't
that's
have to
exactly
worry
what's
that
going to
about
happen to you.
me.
Yeah.
Because, and he's explaining that the isolation is exactly what he's looking for, because he's trying to write a new book and he wants to have like peace and quiet and like get away from everything.
Yeah. But then, yes, it cuts to fucking weirdo little boy Danny and his demon Tony finger.
Yeah.
And Wendy.
Yeah. Wendy.
Their little house is cute.
Yeah. It's the way that, I don't know why, for some reason, I was writing her name as Nancy for like the first half of this. And then finally halfway, I'm like, oh yeah, her name was not Nancy. Her name was Wendy. Because he said it at one point. And I was like, oh yeah, my bad. So this first half is all like Nancy and Danny. Nancy and Danny. And so anyways, yeah, we have Danny talking to Tony, and he's like brushing his teeth. That's whenever he starts seeing the vision, right? Of the blood coming out from the elevators. Yeah. And it's Tony trying to show him like why he doesn't want to go to the Overlook Hotel. And yeah, I think
you also get a shot of the twins.
You get a shot of the twins. Yeah. And there is a record amount of like blood that he used apparently to get that shot.
Yeah. I think it took them over a year for sure to film that specific scene. And then let's see.
Yeah, this was a long like production.
It really was. Yeah. It had to have been. I mean,
there's a lot that went into it.
The like whole door scene, they had to use over 60 doors.
Yeah.
For that. So it's like just that alone. You know how.
Yeah, he made them go through that so many times.
And it's just, I mean, not that it's just a door scene. It is the iconic. Most iconic scene from that movie, from this film. But it's still like, whoa. Yeah. Fucking 60 doors? You went through 60 doors?
Like how many takes they were doing. And then also too, it's like, that's what they, like, he would do so many takes. And even if like the fifth one would have been the one that he uses, he's still going to do like all these other ones because
just in case, because one might be better. Okay, so the elevator scene took a whole year to film. It says while they eventually got it in 3 shots, unlike several other scenes, each take for the elevator shot required 9 days to clean up the hallway and fill the elevator with blood again, and was not complete for a year. Oh, it doesn't tell me how much blood they used though.
9 days though, just to like turn around.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Clean everything up.
That's a lot of blood.
That's that's so much.
It wasn't real blood, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure it wasn't.
It was. Plot twist.
They murdered so many people.
They just had like all the crew members outside like donating their blood.
Blood
like
the whole time.
Yeah. Everybody gave like how many pints can you give?
I have no clue.
Or like an ounce?
But I imagine that
a pint of blood.
You would have to have like probably years worth of stockpiled blood to fill with the amount of blood that they used. And that blood, I will say, is some of the most realistic looking blood I've ever seen.
Very bloody.
In
very
a
thicky,
film.
like it looked like blood.
Yeah, viscous.
Yeah. And so we have then I guess Danny knocked out because he was so overcome with the visions, and so he has a doctor checking up on him, this lady, and basically she's just telling him to have bed rest. She's asking him about Tony, and he's like, Tony's a little boy that lives in my mouth.
Which is like, what?
Well, yeah. And she's like, if you were to open your mouth, can I see him? And he's like, no, he's hiding.
He hides in my stomach.
That's weird.
It is.
That's a lot.
It's really fucking weird.
That would make me as a parent be like, this is not normal.
Yeah. And the way that Wendy's just like, yeah, I first started noticing it after we moved and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then,
yeah, the doctor is fine. Definitely kind of like, I love the way that she even offers the doctor a cigarette too. I'm like, I get it was a different time, but I was just like, I think even by the 80s, they knew that cigarettes were bad for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. I was like, imagine if she would have took it though.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, they're talking, and she's basically then describing. That's where we get to learn in the backstory of how like Jack harmed little Danny back in the day, because he just, it's one of the things you do with the kid. You just grab him and
100 times, something you do 100 times,
and then he just like yanked him too hard and I guess snapped his arm.
It dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah, that's right.
And she had said that he was had been drinking late into the night, and he came home, and so already we've got this history of alcohol and child abuse that happens. And
she says that the good outcome of that was that he stopped drinking apparently. And so, yeah, I love how the doctor said to, like, Wendy asked, like, is something wrong with Danny? She said, there's nothing physically wrong with him. I'm like, girl.
But she's basically being like,
needs some mental health.
I don't know.
There's something else going on there. And so, yeah, that all happens. And
then we get a flash of closing day, which throughout this whole film, we get very just point blank, flashes of this just white text on a black background that says, the interview, closing day. And then it tells you,
breaking it up into little segments.
Yeah.
For us.
And it helps us skip through time. Like at one point, we go a month later, and then it tells us
2 days later
which days we're in. And then we kind of follow this, like how quickly things are unraveling and stuff. But yes, so the next one that we get is closing day. And so then we are in the car with the
Jack and Wendy.
Torrence family on their way up. And this was also another thing is the car, Jack's car in the book was a red Volkswagen Beetle. And in the movie, it's yellow. And then whenever Mr. Hallerman is driving up to like save them.
In the snowcat?
Yeah, in the snowcat. He drives by that overturned 18-wheeler, Yeah. And underneath the overturned 18-wheeler is a red Volkswagen Bug, which was supposed to be basically, everyone assumes it's a giant like fuck you from Kubrick to King being like, this is mine.
I'll have to look back at that.
Kind of like I've crushed your story.
Yeah, I get it.
Thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that one does seem, because that was pointed out in the 237, Room 237 documentary. And that one I was like, okay, that feels accurate.
I feel like they could do that.
Yes.
They would do that. They seemed like they were pretty petty people.
Yes. Yeah. And it does seem
egos.
And Kubrick's attention to detail is almost unparalleled.
Like you said, nothing happens on accident.
Yeah. And then I was wondering, because at the end when they're going through the maze and everything, there's no oxidation of breath. And everyone has been like, what the hell? So there's no like air. Yeah. They're like,
when you're
little
breathing
smoke.
when it's cold. Yeah.
And you're like a dragon.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. There is none. Yeah. And so a lot of people were like, why would Kubrick do that? And then I'm wondering, I'm like, what if they like were never really outside? What if it was all in their head? What if they're inside the little maze that happened, and then they're just pieces in this? I don't know.
I didn't even think about that. I didn't notice that they weren't like breathing out like that.
I think that's one of the biggest like complaints about it.
How do you even like did they edit that out, or is it just like?
Well, it wasn't actual snow. So it was 900 tons or 90 tons, 90 or 900. Terrible for the environment. It was like 900 tons of salt and styrofoam, which made the maze, and 900 tons of salt and crushed styrofoam. And it was not, wasn't actual snow on the trees. And so
the magic of Hollywood.
Yep. And so that's how there was no actual cold.
The way I actually thought it was snow.
Yeah, I mean, I did too. It looked very convincing.
They like waited on the weather and like they planned this whole okay, cool.
But God, styrofoam is like one of the worst things for the environment, and 900 tons of it.
It doesn't biodegrade. Yeah.
Nope.
It turns into even smaller little particles of just like plastic that just get in the water and everything. Oh, that's crazy.
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad. Anyways, but that was one of the things, like his attention to detail. That one was pointed out in the Into Darkness on Shudder. There, it talks about just iconic 80s horror films, and so that was pointed out by one of the. They interview a bunch of like horror critics, but then also horror actors and directors and screenwriters of that time. And I believe it was a director or producer who mentioned was like his attention to detail is like so top notch that I can't believe like he fucked that up, kind of thing. And then
because there was a lot of other there was like furniture missing in certain places and pieces where it would be there and then not there
behind Kubrick, and the typewriter changes colors too. It starts white and then it turns like gray or black in other scenes towards the end of the movie. And then there's a chair missing behind Kubrick at one point. Not Kubrick, I'm sorry. Jack. Whenever he is going off on Wendy, that chair disappears. Yeah. And then there's another one. Right after the bathroom scene where Danny passes out from being shown those things. On the way, like as we're panning in on him brushing his teeth in there, we pass his door and there's stickers all over his door. And the closest one, like the last sticker that you see is Dopey from the Seven Dwarves. And he's on the door. And then whenever they walk out of his room and like close his door after he has been like, they tell him to bed rest and stuff, Dopey is gone. And so then someone was like, well, that's like an analogy. Like he is no longer like, he's no longer like a dope. He's familiar with the situation now. He has been shown things. He is in the know.
The people are reaching.
They are.
Yeah, but I feel that, I mean, it works. I mean, it's because it's not that much of a reach if it actually, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows if it's actually what Kubrick intended. But that was just.
If only we could ask the man.
So many things that are just like, ugh. Yeah. Anyways.
And so we have them getting to the hotel.
And they're already talking about the Donner Party.
Yeah.
I love when Danny goes, I know all about cannibalism, Mom. It's okay. I saw it on television.
On the TV. And then Jack is like, you see that? He saw it on television. And so we have them getting to the Overlook. But and also I guess we should have mentioned how Danny was also saying how he was hungry, and Jack was like, well, you should have ate your breakfast kind of thing. Like you can already see the dynamic of like, he seems like he does not like Danny at all.
Yeah.
Like he hates his own kid.
Yeah. The tension is high, and then the way that he feels like he's mocking him the whole time. And especially with like the television bit, and then sitting there, most parents aren't being like, well, the Donner Party, and talking about cannibalism in front of their child and stuff. And just the way that he looked after it was like, ugh.
Yeah.
No.
And so they get a tour of the hotel once they're at their hotel. And well, I guess not before they kind of get in there for a little bit. He's waiting for them, and then I guess Danny found the game room or something like that.
Yeah, but he was throwing little darts and stuff.
Yeah. Did he see something at that point?
He did. This was his first encounter with the quote unquote twins. Yeah, and it was his first ghosty. He basically just turns around and they're just standing there. Nothing dark happens. They're just kind of there.
You could honestly also he could maybe think like they were actually real people at that moment and not even think like, oh, those are ghosts right now.
Because there was nothing unsettling about them. I mean, their kind of appearance is unsettling, but
like at that point, we know that who they are.
Yeah.
But like he doesn't know that these people are dead. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so they're, I think Nancy, not Nancy, Wendy. I put she's elated. I don't know why she was. Oh, she really liked the decor. She was all like, "Oh, is this all original Indian like art, stained glass or artwork or whatever?"
Yes. And there was a lot of Native American and imagery and stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Well, this was supposedly built on an Indian burial ground," which I feel like is kind of a staple for King.
Yeah.
At least with this and Pet Sematary, right? Because that was also an Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
So I guess nothing can happen without Indian burial ground.
Yeah, no.
But then also, I mean,
And
The
they said
Shining
that they
itself
also-
is not, it's not a ghost per se.
No,
The Shining
yeah.
is an ability.
Yeah, it's a thing
So-
that people have in the house has apparently.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's a lot. I had a thought, but then it went away.
I'm
But
sorry.
anyways, no, it's good. And so the they're taking that tour. Then we have what's his name, Mr. Oldman.
Ullman.
Showing them their apartment, their little studio where they get to live.
Oh, the wallpaper on the entry of their apartment is just so stupid cute. That like yellow and pink floral together. I love it.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, it was a pretty like little cute, cozy, spacious room for them.
Yeah.
Little family.
And did you get the vibe
three.
when Jack was going through it and like pressing on the bed and stuff and like looking into the first room going, perfect for a child? And it's real cozy, real homey. Like, did you
Yeah.
get the vibe that he was like kind of shitting on it? It felt like to
I
me
can
he
see
was
that
being
now.
hella sarcastic and
But,
was kind of being a dickhole.
No, I got that he was being like not necessarily
Like
an
a
asshole,
piss-ass?
but like he's I just like that's just I felt like that was his character.
Yeah, that's just him.
But I can see that like he was
Very
being
over the
sarcastic.
top.
Yeah.
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 It just with the way he delivered most things, it was like,
Salty.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's
I
a
don't know.
very salty character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. We have them. What happens after that?
So then they basically go through and they continue
Oh, yeah.
on their tour and they
The
meet
head
up with Mr. Halloran, yeah, the chef. And so then we basically depart from Jack and Mr. Ullman and we go with Danny, Wendy, and Mr. Halloran.
And to go show, he's gonna show them the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right before that, I forgot. We also get the mention of how there's no booze. They take away all the alcohol.
Yes.
Which is a good little
Yeah, because they go into the gold room, which that room also is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
The carpet in there, ugh, so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I love how everything was gold. That bar was so cute. And whenever they have the 1920s-esque looking party in there, it just looks so complete.
The vibe. Yeah. It looked
I
really
want to
nice.
go to that party.
Well, the hotel is so grand looking as well. It's huge. Which is the actual hotel that he used. I think they used like 3 different hotels or something like that.
So the original, what inspired Stephen
Stanley.
King was the Stanley, because he stayed there once and he stayed in room 217 in the Stanley, which has many ghosts attached to it. But he had a dream whenever he was staying there, and it was right before closing time. It was like right before they actually did close, and so they
Very
basically
similar
were
to the movie.
yes, in this
the book.
abandoned hotel. And he had this nightmare that he woke from in cold sweats of his son, who I believe was maybe 3 at the time of the dream, being chased down the long hallway by like a water hose
Yeah.
or something. And then so basically after that, the bones of The Shining were kind of in place.
He was like, what if?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what kind of inspired it. But then the exterior shots were from the Timberland Lodge in Oregon,
Yeah.
I believe. And then I believe you're correct with the
There's a
third,
one.
but I don't remember
reading
the
about
third.
it, but I don't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information with this movie.
There's
Yeah.
so much.
There's a lot that went into it. And so, I love how Dick is showing Nancy the kitchen, and we have the walk-in with all these meats and everything. There's like your nightmare.
Yeah.
And then we have the pantry with like all the dry canned goods and all that stuff.
That's where some people were like, so behind Mr. Hallerman's head is this like one particular kind of like baking soda or something called like Calumet. And Calumet, I believe they said is what like Native American peace pipe is. And so they were saying that this is like
a nephew to that.
No, or, it was saying like that's how the like Native American and just kind of like the peace treaty and stuff, that this was like all about like a narrative on, you know, how imperialism happens and stuff like that, and taking over and hurting
indigenous people.
Yes.
Like the people who are native to the land.
And like, so people got that from just the baking soda behind it.
That's
but
such a like
apparently Kubrick did spend like he had very particular items that he wanted placed in there, and he like hand placed most of these items himself. And so I don't know.
Who knows? It could be.
And with all the,
or what if he was just like a supreme, just like this is gonna fuck with people for the rest of
I feel
their
like
lives.
that would be the case.
Like it doesn't even have any meaning. It's just like
I'm gonna put this
say
here
it does,
just so you'll overthink it.
Yeah.
But this is where we get, because after they had left was it the freezer that he had called him Doc?
No, it was the pantry.
Or it was the pantry?
It was because she showed them the freezer first, and then they go to the pantry, and that's whenever he's like, "Would you like some ice cream, Doc?"
Yeah. And because in that
and
he says telepathically, and then I think he had called him Doc in the freezer too, and then on the way there is when Wendy, then it looks like he's got a little hat.
It's got a little hat.
Wendy goes, "How did you know we call him Doc?"
Yeah.
And then basically she's just like, that's kind of fucking weird.
Yeah, because he's like, well, I'm sure I've heard you say it. And
she's like, I'm sure I haven't.
Yeah. She's like, we're the only ones who call him Doc. Like from the rabbit, the Looney Tunes.
What's up, Doc?
Yeah.
That was a parrot. Sounded like a parrot.
Similar enough. I can't do it.
Parrot rabbit.
I'm not good at impersonations.
Yeah. No, me either.
No.
I can do a parrot. That's it.
Bok? Oh, I said Bok. That's a chicken. Bok. Okay. But yeah, no. So that point, we then get to realize that like there's something up with Mr. What's his name?
Hallerman.
I just wrote him as Dick because that's his first name. But Hallerman?
Hallerman, yeah.
Hallerman. Okay, there we go.
I have Halloran written here, but then later on it says Hallerman. So who knows? It's a Nancy situation.
Literally. And so yeah, I'm just gonna refer to him as Dick. Because my favorite popsicle is Dick. Do you remember that? The Maury thing of like this girl, and she's like, I'm 12 years old and I don't care if I would get pregnant or not, because my favorite popsicle is Dick. It's not real. It's like a parody.
Oh, okay.
I'm making fun of those shows of like, you know, yeah, anyways.
I was like, oh my God.
And so yeah, we what's a hot cereal, by the way?
Hot cereal, oatmeal.
Is that oatmeal? That makes sense. Okay. All right. Anyways,
did they have hot cereal in there?
He's described it. We have your cold cereals, we have your hot cereals, we have your,
Okay.
And so yeah, we have then that whole scene with Dick talking with Danny at the table, and he's kind of explaining what The Shining is to him, and how his grandmother had the shine, and he thought only they had the shine for a while, but then he realized that other people have the shine, and even the Overlook kind of has a shine to it.
As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Has a particular thing about it that, you know, makes people want to come to it. And then it's got some special abilities, things that happen.
Get kind of trapped there, basically.
And then he asks him, he says, have you ever told your parents about this? Like what you can do? And Danny responds saying, Tony says he isn't supposed to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then
there was a fan theory too that Tony was actually or I don't think it was a fan theory. I think in the book is what it is. It's that it's actually him from the future talking back to himself. Yeah. But that wasn't portrayed in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so basically after that, Danny asks, is something bad here? And then this is when Dick says, when something happens, it can leave traces behind.
Yeah. Because he's asking about room 237.
Yeah. And Hallerman basically just says like, don't go in there.
Yeah.
Stay out of that room. Don't go there. Which is like,
if you tell someone to do that, they're going to go in there. Yeah. And
especially a little kid.
Yeah, that's what you do. Like if you set limits, they're going to want to push their boundaries, break them.
And then we get our next flash of a month later. Like SpongeBob.
Oh, and the voice 1 month later.
1 month later.
And so yeah, we have Danny going through the hotel and he's on his little tricycle.
Yep, big wheel.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Which also too, like I was watching this with headphones at a certain point, and the sound of him going on the wood floor and then the carpet and the wood floor and then the carpet.
I mean, I could notice that on my like
Your
sound
regular,
bar too.
you know, imagine putting like it was in my headphones. I was like, oh, it was really cool though.
Because it was like very like loud. It's almost like, you know, whenever you're driving on the road and then there is, you're on the road and then you switch to a bridge, the way that the sound of your car, the hum changes from like very like to kind of thing. That's what it was like.
Or like when you go on like one of those bridges that has like
yeah. So very different. Like, I mean, that's what it was.
I like yours.
On the hardwood, it was very like loud, and then the moment you got onto the carpet, it was like quiet. And so it was very just subtle, nice way to have everything put in.
And so we have him on that tricycle. He's going through the hotel, kind of like doing his little, you know, like anyone would do. You're going to look around.
Yeah, he's just patrolling.
I love that. He's patrolling, literally. And we have Miss Wendy. She's cooking something, right? She's making breakfast. Or she's taking she took it to Jack. That's right.
Which is creepy with the like... the mirror there. It's one of the first shots of the mirror, which is then an iconic like
scene later.
Yeah, it's how we figure out what red rum means.
Foreshadowing.
There's also one part I have in my note here. It says when he came up for his interview, Jack had said it seems as if he'd been there before.
Yeah,
and so that was like a little, I guess.
Yeah, but is that a part of The Shining? Like where Dick's saying like how it calls people to it.
Yeah, probably. But then like at the ending, I don't know. And it's been so long since I read The Shining. I have it on my bookshelf upstairs. And I was like, if it wasn't such a giant ass fucking book with Stephen King sentences, like Stephen King's writing
I've never read a Stephen King book.
They're very good.
Yeah.
But they are just... Steinbeck has some of the longest sentences like known on the face of the planet. Yeah. And King also has some very like long sentences, which when it's a long sentence, if you lose concentration for even a second, you've missed part of it. And so then you have to go back and keep rereading and rereading. You can't just go back to the like 5 words prior. In order to get the entire idea, you have to read the whole sentence. And so if the sentence is a paragraph long,
that makes I don't even like reading to begin with, so I can see that. And so we have Miss Wendy. She took Jack some breakfast, and they're kind of having a conversation. And at the same time, we have, or right after that, then we have what's his face? Danny and Miss Wendy going through the maze, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. They're going through the maze, and then we get a shot of Jack looking at the replica of the maze
with them in it.
Yeah. Which is then again makes me be like, oh, what if they were never outside at all?
And they were stuck in the little maze.
What if the maze is their mind and they're trapped inside of it?
And that makes sense. Well, and the maze, even later on, it's like a reference to like the descent into madness, like, you know, you getting lost in like your own chaos.
Yeah.
And the way that they filmed that too was that they replicated like the inner part of the maze and put it next to like a really tall apartment complex and recorded Danny and Wendy walking in it. Like
that's
so cool. That was real. It wasn't even it's all real.
Yeah, that's so neat. Speaking of descent into madness, so last week we covered the Babadook, which was all about a descent into madness. And we talked about how the film's artistic style was taken from had inspiration from The Fall of the House of Usher and Edgar Allan Poe story developed into a film. This, apparently Kubrick took a lot of inspiration and made hints and stuff, or like little subtle nods towards the Mask of the Red Death. also by Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay.
And so I thought that was
that one.
pretty. That was one of the first ones I think I ever read. I have a little child's version of it on my bookshelf that's really easy to read because it's for children. I bought it at a book fair when I was like 7 or something.
I love it.
Of course, I'm like coming home with this fucking the picture on the front of it is like really scary.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yay, Edgar Allan Poe.
Edgar Allan Poe.
I loved it. Anyways.
The Raven.
So I thought that was we didn't plan this at all, but I was
Yeah.
like, damn, that's nice.
Yeah.
A nice little one
A little
crazy
take-back.
to another crazy. Anyways.
And so yeah, we have then we get him watching them go through that little maze, and then we have a big old flashcard to Tuesday.
That one almost made me jump.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we have Nancy cooking, and she's like, I think she's kind of cooking. She's putting a fruit cocktail or something in like a bowl. I don't remember, but
I don't remember.
She's watching a newscasting talking about how there's going to be a lot of snow and there's this whole storm coming towards them. And then at the same time, we have Danny passing room 237 on his tricycle, and it's the way that he's tempted to go in there, but it's locked, so he can't get in there.
And every time that he's riding his so at first the first route that he's taking is just like a loop. The second route is more of like a P shape basically, and it is he then is like going from one level up to the second level. He's on the second floor at that point, and it's supposed to, people had said that it was like a representation of the fact that he is now the next level up into whatever is happening here, that he's like basically leveled up, and then now he has reached 237, so we're getting closer to what is supposed to be happening. Again,
I can see that.
Don't know if it's intentional, but that's what people think.
I mean, intentional or not, it's just what you take from it. So,
and the route that he takes each time, it's giving, like, it seems so not pointless. There's a lot of shots in this film. This film is a 2 hour and 36 minute film or something. There's a lot of shots in this film, like the fact that the first like 5 minutes are shots of Colorado, and that are just very long. And while this might seem pointless of him just kind of exploring the hotel, it's actually giving you a layout of the hotel, because you're able to see like, okay, this room connects to this room because you're getting glimpses of it. And so while it's not very like in your face, you're getting to see like, okay, this connects here, this connects here. And it lets you know the layout of the hotel and where things actually
It just gives you more perspective into like putting yourself into their shoes as well. Because it's like when you do look at it from the outside, like it's such a huge hotel. When you're in those rooms, especially like the grand ballroom or the gold ballroom, it's like just so huge. So just imagine like that little boy going through this entire fucking hotel
on his big wheel.
Like that's a lot.
It is.
That's literally a lot of so much the ground to cover.
Yeah. He does.
Pinch poke. And so and so we have.
He also
Jack,
gets a flash of the twins there.
Oh yeah, he gets another flash. Yeah, and we have Jack at his typewriter, I guess, right at that point. He's typing away.
Scene we've mentioned multiple times.
He's Nancy. Wendy comes in to check up on him and make sure he's doing all right. And then he blows up on her, and it's just basically saying like, you know, every time you come in, when you come in here, you distract me. I have to get back to whatever.
Break my concentration.
That
was like,
triggered.
A little bit. I mean, it was so good.
Yeah,
the way that he acted there, I was like,
ass hat.
Jesus Christ, you are a fucking piece of shit. You are the most kind of terrible
and very like condescending to her.
And the way she's just standing there, like, okay. Maybe I'll bring you some sandwiches or something. And he's like, no. So sad.
If you see me or hear me in this room typing or not, leave me alone.
Then he like makes some very exaggerated clacking sounds looking at her like, type. And
he belittles her a lot. It's very condescending. So it makes you already not really care for him. And it also shows like just how easily the house is able to kind of take over him and make him do the bidding, because I mean he wasn't that far off from wanting to kill them anyways.
Yeah And because then I'm like, does he talk to them like that all the time? Or
because we only see them in their interaction at the Overlook, basically.
Yeah, because the way that she's acting so like calm makes me think that
this is normal.
For her. But then, like, I feel, I just because of like The Shining and stuff, the novel, I feel like he wasn't supposed to have been like that. This was out of character for him, and that maybe she was in just so much shock.
Yeah.
That, you know, she just was like, okay.
Yeah. I feel that.
I don't know what to do.
Maybe that. And there was also the theory as well that, like I said earlier, the Wendy theory that she was actually the one that was either like hearing him say these things, but he wasn't actually saying these things, or like it's all happening in her head, because right after the scene of like they have this interaction and she walks away, it's back at him at the typewriter. And before, whenever she came in, I guess he like threw the paper out or whatever, took it out of the typewriter, but it's back at the typewriter and the paper's in it and he looks normal.
Yeah.
It
looks like because Andrew and I were talking about it while watching it, and he said, you know, it seems like he like detached from his body there for a moment, and maybe like then at that scene he was like back to how he was supposed to be too. So I don't know. I like the theory of Wendy going crazy though.
There's a lot there. And so then we have another flash into Thursday. Now it's Thursday. And so Wendy and Danny are playing outside in the snow, and we have Jack just kind of staring menacingly and crazily at them.
So fucking creepy.
Right into space, which is weird. And
his eyebrows again. And then his like head down looking up, you know? Yeah.
And I love
down, eyes are up.
I love how also that's just like literally Thursday, and then we get a flash, and it's Saturday.
Like
we just jump. Like
Friday don't matter. Nothing notable happened on Friday. Everything was normal.
And so we have the phone lines are down, and so Wendy
her
is
outfit
talking.
Here is so cute.
Oh, I don't remember what it looked
was
like.
The like yellow cardigan, and she had the little neckerchief on, and so cute.
And she's talking to the radio people because the phone line is down. And I love like the radio because she has to say over.
Yeah, over and out.
Over.
This is KDK12 calling KDK1.
And so at the same time we have, or right after this, we have Danny meeting the twins because he's riding again on this little trike, and he's going down a hallway and he sees them.
And now he's in the like quarters of where they
were murdered. Or that's right.
And also where they were murdered because that was where they stayed whenever they were there.
And so the twins start speaking to him, or I'm sorry, not
Hello,
twins, but
Danny.
twins. Yeah.
Come and play with us.
Forever. And ever. And ever.
And then you see their deaths. Then being axe murdered.
And I love Danny's like.
Yeah, and the soundtrack was very. Today I was like, the soundtrack, LOL. It was very over the top.
I love that.
Yeah, I did too. I liked it.
And obviously they're dead, and that's whenever Tony tells them that they're not tells him that they're not real or whatever.
Yeah, and he says, "Tony, I'm scared," or something like that. Also, whenever she was phoning the police or radioing them, she did tell them. The police said, "Hey, maybe just leave your radio on at all times, just in case." And
because they already know.
They already know.
Weird things be happening at the Overlook Hotel. And then we get a flash into Monday. And we're going to get the fire engine. His fire. Oh, that's right. So they're watching TV, and that's whenever Danny says, "I want to go get my fire engine from our room." And Miss Wendy's like, "Can you just fucking wait? Because your dad just went to bed."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No." And she has no like foot down. So she's just like, "Okay, go, but be quiet." So
in this scene, sorry.
Yeah.
The television there, a lot of people,
it wasn't plugged in.
There was no cord.
Yeah.
And then again, that 42, the film they were watching was called Summer of 42. So, and while he was brushing his teeth the first time, he had a jersey on that said 42 on the sleeve as well.
A lot of numberology.
Yeah.
There.
So I don't know what it all has to mean, but that was just one of the other things that like people were reading into it so much because it doesn't explicitly tell you that they're watching Summer of 42. I guess you just have to know that that's what it is.
Someone caught it.
I didn't know what it was.
I wouldn't either.
I only found that out whenever they were telling me about this, the numbers having significance. But anyways, yes. Then he goes upstairs to his dad. He says, "I'll tiptoe."
And He's supposed to be asleep, but Dad is just sitting on the edge of the bed, looking
Fucking
crazy.
Like a creep. I was like, ew, why is he sitting there like that?
Yeah.
And then we get the shot of the vanity too, because it was such a brilliant shot, because you're looking at, we get to see actual like Jack Nicholson there. Then we also, the back of his head, then we get to see as well as his reflection, but then we also get to see Danny. In the further like background.
Yeah.
And so the fact that like,
and Danny's just like
perfectly in view too, and the fact that Kubrick was able to manipulate the camera to have everything so in focus was really, really cool.
I love how Danny's like, how old is Danny at this point?
I don't know, he's got to be like six
probably.
maybe?
I love how Danny even walks in, he's like, okay, that's fucked up.
Yeah, he's like,
what's
why you
wrong
look
with
like
you? Literally.
He's like,
And so then Jack is like, come over here, and he like he sits him down. He kind of asking him like, how do you like the hotel and all.
And
this
Danny
stuff.
looks so uncomfortable the whole time. He's like,
and Danny even has to ask. He's like, you would never hurt me, Mom, would you?
and then Jack's like, what do you mean? Like, did your mommy tell you that I would hurt you, kind of thing? He doesn't immediately go, no.
Yeah.
He's just like, what do you mean? And it's like, no, wrong answer. There's only one thing
Very defensive.
that you wouldn't ever hurt me could mean, right?
Yeah, and well, obviously coming from the man who's already hurt him. So.
And he asks him, Danny asks his father, he says, like, do you feel bad? And then this is where Jack goes off and says, I wish we could stay here forever and ever. And
Danny's,
just like our little twins.
Yeah.
And
Danny
then that's
already
when
is
he
like,
asks.
that's weird.
Yeah. And that's when he asks that you would never hurt me.
Yeah.
And so it's just such an uncomfortable scene. It's so creepy.
Yeah.
The way that, I mean, and they did a phenomenal job acting through it. It's, ugh.
Yeah.
It gets
really
under your skin. It makes me
you.
like, ugh, makes my skin crawl. It's just so creepy.
Because you can literally see like him losing his mind.
Yeah, and the way that he like adjusts his face too throughout the film, he'll be like,
yeah,
it's just creepy.
He's crazy. And so then we have another flash into Wednesday. We have Danny playing, and then like a ball rolls up to him, and we see that room 237 is open because it's got a little key in it, but it's like open. And
this was another. This was. I'm sorry.
All the theories.
You have to watch Room 237.
Okay.
It is. So I was just like, what? I want to watch it again because I'm just like, what the fuck did I even watch? But so on the key, it just says room number and with the abbreviation of N little O, because that's how number is abbreviated a lot of the times, 237. And they were like, this is a... Oh, I wish 237 added up to 11.
What do you mean? Oh, like 2 + 3 + 7?
Yeah, but it's 12.
Oh, what was
so that's dumb. Anyways, there's this one guy saying there's only 2 words that can come from the way the capitalized letters on there, because number, the second O is little because that's how it's abbreviated.
Yeah.
He's like, only 2 words can come from these capitalized letters, and that's room and moon.
Okay, you still got me. You haven't lost me just yet, but could you keep going?
That's basically it. He was just like, you can get room and moon from it, and so this was Kubrick's way of telling us that this is the moon room. That 237 was the film studio that they faked all the
moon landing.
Yeah, all the moon landing footage. It's so silly.
But honestly, though, if we went to the moon once, why aren't we going back to the moon?
That's true.
I mean, I get it's expensive, and like, what are we gonna do there? But like,
well, haven't we gone back to the moon though?
No.
Why do they send people in? Oh, to go work on the satellite.
Yeah.
The space station.
Yeah.
I was like, don't we send people to space? Like, moon. Kind of.
There's no moon base or anything.
There should be.
I feel like there should, but I feel like also supposedly there's like, well, no, supposedly like there's no like resources on the moon. There's nothing to like, so there's no point, and it's really, really, really hella expensive to get there.
Yeah.
But like, still, I think it might be fake. That's all.
I love it.
It could be fake.
Okay, you need to watch it.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Room 227. And so, yeah, he goes in, and that's the last we see of Danny. He dies. I'm just kidding.
He is dead then, and the rest of it
is a ghost.
It's fake. He's trapped in the hotel.
Yeah, and so we see Wendy is working on the boiler rooms because obviously Jack is not
doing his
taking
job.
care of his job, caretaking, and
which
Jack
makes it all the more like ironic when he's like, "Do you not understand that I have a responsibility to my employers?"
Literally.
And it's like, "Bitch, she's been doing your job
all of
while
it,
you've been sitting here typing away,
whacking off." And so then, we have him having a nightmare, and she hears him obviously, and so that's whenever she starts running towards him, and she finds him in the room, not the room, the the typing room
like
that
the
he's
lobby.
been in, the lobby, and
I think it's the Colorado room.
He says she wakes him up from the nightmare, and that's whenever he's like, I saw myself killing you and Danny.
I dreamt that I cut you up into little pieces.
Yeah.
And it's the way that he starts like detailing it, and it's just like, how the fuck is she staying so calm after hearing that?
Yeah.
She's basically just like, I mean, you can see her body kind of flinch a little bit, but it's like, nah. The moment my partner who has already had a history of abuse tells me like, I dreamt, I mean, regardless, he's saying he had the most horrible dream, blah, 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 but dreamt that he had cut my son and I into little pieces.
Cute.
I would be dipping.
There's something wrong
or
there.
I would have locked him in the pantry then.
I mean, I've had crazy dreams, but not like that.
Yeah. Not about, killing the people you care about. Maybe it is. Who knows? But I just don't understand how she stays that calm.
But,
and then in walks Danny.
Oh man, poor Danny. And he has like freaking bruises on his neck. It looks like something really clawed at him.
Yeah,
and
his collar's all torn up too. It's been ripped out because he was wearing like a layered collar, like button down collared shirt with a sweater combo. Boy was styling.
Boy was finessed.
He had at one point, I think when he went up to go get
I really like that Apollo sweater, by the way.
Yeah. And then whenever he went up to get his fire engine, he had that Mickey sweater on, like Mickey playing football. That was cute. I was like, damn, that sweater would be worth so much money today.
Literally. As seen on The Shining.
As seen on The Shining. Same sweater.
Worn by Danny.
Worn by Danny himself. Literally. Danny Lloyd.
And so, Wendy then looks at Jack and she accuses him very fast of being the one who like put the marks on him or hands on him,
which I feel like is not a far jump,
since he's already done it before, and he literally just had a nightmare saying how he killed the family.
I would also think that, and because
I'm sure she was downstairs for a good while in the boiler room and doing stuff, so she's probably thinking like, what the fuck happened while I was gone?
And no one else is supposed to be in the hotel,
so there's no explanation for
if it
who
wasn't
else.
her.
It had to be him, because at this point she's not thinking ghost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then he's going and he walks off to the gold room, and God, the gold room is just so fucking pretty again. But he sits down at the empty bar, and then he looks up, does his big smile, and starts talking to Lloyd. The ghosty bartender. Yep. And he says, I'd give my goddamn soul for a glass of beer right now.
And he gets one.
But he gets Jack.
Yeah.
Daniels, which again, Jack. Jack.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels. Ew. And then he says, this is what I get for 5 months on the wagon. And I was like, wagon? Oh, sobriety.
Yeah.
I was like, are we back to the Donners now?
No, but I get what you mean. Yeah. So I guess it had only been 5 months that he'd been sober.
Yes, because at one point, whenever Wendy was talking to the doctor at the beginning, she says, and he's been sober for 5 months now, which.
So that means that incident only happened so recently.
The incident happened 3 years ago.
Right? That's why I was like,
So he hasn't been completely sober since it happened, because then he says here in this, while he's like unloading on Lloyd, he just is sitting there talking, and he's like, I would never hurt the little fucker. And like the way that he's just talking about him, and he's like, I love the piece of shit, or like, I love the shit out of him, or something. Like he's just using all these like obscene words to talk about his kid and about how much he loves him.
Warm.
And then he goes, well, I did hurt him once. It was 3 years ago. She's never going to let me live it down. And so then it was 3 years ago, but he's only been sober for 5 months.
Yeah.
Which means things aren't quite lining up.
That's not. Yeah. He seems crazy. Like a very toxic person. And so we have him talking to Lloyd for a good bit, actually.
And this scene is just so good. His acting throughout all of it is like, it's almost, you can't help but watch.
Yeah.
You're just like pulled to him.
Because he's referring to Wendy as like a sperm bank one, and then like just kind of going off about them, how he really just like, she's basically, he has a lot of resentment towards her. Anyways, we have all that whole conversation happening with Lloyd, and then we have him talking about how he's going to pay him, and then he obviously has no money, and then that's whenever Lloyd is like, you're good here, you're tabbed or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously because he paid with his soul.
He said, how's my credit here? And he goes, your credit is fine.
And then we have Wendy coming back to find him, and that's whenever she gets to tell him there was an old lady in room 237, and she's the one who laid hands on him, and he's like, are you out of your goddamn mind or something? I don't remember. He said something around those lines.
It was something like that. Like, are you fucking out of your mind?
Stupid, basically.
Mind,
And I'm just like, the one thing that could vindicate you if you're saying that it's not you, but yet you're telling her like, you're stupid, there's nobody else here. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so he goes to check it out, and that's whenever he gets to room 237, and he's going in there, and
at some point in here too, Hallerman, we flashed to Hallerman, and Danny was communicating with Hallerman because they both have the Shining, and so Danny is basically showing him what he's seen. Like,
he's having a vision of what he saw.
He's sending him like the blood, everything like that. He's showing him everything that is about to happen, the lady in the bathtub, so on and so forth. But then
And so you're right. And then we have the old lady in the bathtub, and
that bathroom. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the bathroom is
bathroom.
so beautiful. The carpet in the room, so beautiful.
Which whenever
Jack
comes in, it's really nice. The whole house. Whole hotel. Jack comes in. He doesn't see an old lady. He sees a young lady.
Yeah.
And she's tall. She's tall as fuck.
I know. When she stood up, I was like, she's just gonna keep going.
Fucking tall.
And then when her legs stepped out, it almost looked. You know when you do 0.5 zoom on your iPhone and how it kind of stretches everything out. That's like what her legs were almost in a fisheye camera.
And so she then also, obviously she's naked. We got boobies.
We do.
And
they were good boobies.
She walks up.
No booty though.
Seductively. Well, not even seductively.
She's literally
just walking up to him.
Her face is so blank, like the entire time. She's not at any point.
But he's like doing that whole weird start smiling thing. He's a perv.
Creepy.
And so then
I just put his face.
And so they start making out once they get into each other's embrace, and then after a while of him making out with her, that's when he realizes that she's old because he's looking at the reflection in the mirror
and bloated and covered in sores, like she had been soaking in the water dead for
decades.
And she looked nasty as fuck. The practical effects there, so good.
I was like, ew, she's old. She's gross. And then sorry, not being an ageist. And then we have Danny. I think he starts having like a almost seizure or something at that point right after.
And well, at this point, because he comes up, Jack. Why did I forget his name? Jack comes up to the bedroom, and he's basically a lying motherfucker. He's just like, I didn't see anything in there.
Right.
I saw nothing. And then he says Danny did this to himself.
It's the only logical explanation.
Yeah.
If it wasn't you and it wasn't me, then it was Danny.
Yeah, he did this to himself, which is just like, no. And then this is where we get the first red rum.
Red rum.
It's so fucking creepy.
Yeah.
The way that he just like
red rum. With the little finger. And then we get like
this is where Wendy says we have to get Danny out of here.
Yeah.
And this is where basically so I put the blood coming down again, which I guess maybe we just got another shot of the blood.
Oh yeah, but there was a few scenes of that happening throughout the movie of the elevator doors in the blood. Yeah.
But then so here after she says, "Hey, we have to get Danny out of here," he then goes off on her again, and he says, "I've let you fuck up my life so far, and I'm not gonna let you fuck this up."
Yeah.
And it's just. Like he's again losing his mind, going off on her, and then he leaves.
I said Jack takes a 180. I was like, poor Wendy, like shit, I would kill myself.
Yeah,
the way he was talking to her,
she was just being like concerned about their child, saying something's not right. Like and he didn't do this to himself. Something is wrong here.
Yeah.
If he didn't do it, like someone else is in the hotel
with us,
because she was like, the door was open, the lights were on, the key was there, like someone else is here, kind of thing. And then he's just not believing her, and then basically goes off on her. not basically, he goes off on her.
Yeah, and then we have after that, Mr. Hallerman calls the radio people to check in on the Torrances because the phone line's not working. And he's like, call back, later, and we'll tell you what's up. And so then we have the Gold Room party happening.
Yeah, we see remnants of a party like strewn about, and we're hearing sound from the ballroom happening. And he goes in there, and it's a fucking dope looking party. Looks fun as hell. Everyone's in their little flapper 20s attire, which is not necessarily my most favorite attire, but the couches and everything, and then just people sitting there in their beautiful pleated dresses, drinking fucking cocktails with things on their head. It looks so posh,
ritzy.
Yes, I want to have a party like that.
Very Gatsby.
Yes.
And so then we have him talking to Mr. Lloyd right again, and that's when he wants to get a drink, and Mr. Lloyd tells him that he doesn't have to pay for it because
he says your money is no good here.
Yeah. And
he says, I at least like to know who's buying my drinks.
And
then
so he's now being an asshole.
Orders from the house.
Asshole to Lloyd. Yeah, I said the order from the house to get fucked up.
Yep. Get fucked up so you can kill your family. And he turns around and there's a man carrying some drinks out. What was it called?
I don't even know.
It was something with an A. It almost looked like it was like an egg yolk, like yellow, thick, almost custardy looking mixture. I don't know, something with an A though.
Ew, I don't like those.
Yeah. Anyways,
like a White Russian.
Yeah, kind of something like that. And he spills it on him, and the guy is like, "Oh, let me clean you off." And then so they go into this bathroom, which this bathroom was cool as fuck.
Yeah, I really liked it.
I loved it.
It was super cool.
So neat. Ugh. Just the use of color in this film.
The pops.
The saturation and just going from one to the other, like at the end when we've got that ghostly, the blue lobby filled with skeletons and corpses or whatever, to then Wendy running down that just, red hall. Yeah.
Well, even all the colors, like you said, throughout like the decoration and the different wallpapers and the different patterns and the flooring and stuff. Yeah, it was really cool.
So cool.
And we have him talk. They go to that restroom. They're talking, and that's whenever we find out that this is Mr. Grady,
Delbert
Grady, and he is the guy that's was the last caretaker and killed his family, and so that's whenever Jack's kind of questioning him about it, and Mr. Grady's very unhinged.
Yeah, he's like, I have no recollection of this.
Yeah,
because he keeps telling Grady what he had done.
Yeah, and then that's whenever we have Jack then or Mr. Grady saying that Jack has always been the caretaker.
Yeah, he says, I would know because I've always. He said, you've always been the caretaker. I would know because I've always been here.
Yeah.
Which is then what?
Yeah, it throws it way off. And then we have Mr. Grady throwing out a racial slur. Yes. Whenever I did not remember that at all. And when he started saying that, I was like, oh, it slapped me. God. It slapped me silly.
Yeah, because he says Grady tells him that Danny has contacted someone else, and Jack's
like
someone else, and he says a bleep.
Yeah,
a bleep chef.
Yeah, and so then he
and he says your son has a very great talent.
Yeah, and then he's also saying that whenever he's basically explaining what happened back in the day and saying my girls tried to do the same thing, and whenever they were starting to misbehave, I don't remember the term he said, but that he corrected them. And whenever his wife tried to stop him, he corrected her.
That's right.
So it gives the idea to Jack then that he needs to do something about Miss Wendy and about little Danny.
And there he had said that one of his girls had even stolen some matches and tried to burn the place down. And that was when he corrected her.
That's right.
And in The Shining, the book,
that's
the hotel,
burns.
that's how it ends.
Yeah.
It burns down, which then ironically during filming, part of the set burnt down.
Oh, really?
And they had to then build several pieces. And so then there's just this iconic photo of Kubrick laughing in front of the burnt down set. And then it's just everyone kind of says that, maybe he was laughing due to the irony of the fact that the place, he had tried to change the story so much, but then yet it almost kept it almost stayed true to itself.
Yeah, I was watching
the set burnt down. Yes.
I was watching a interview with Mr. King, Stephen King, that is, and he also said that like the biggest difference that he would say in terms of the movie is in the book is that in his book, like you said, the hotel burnt down and it was very warm.
Mm-hmm.
And that in the movie, the hotel freezes over basically.
Mm-hmm.
And like everything's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways.
Because that's literally how he goes out.
And so we have then that whole conversation happens and we have
Wendy basically up in a room making a plan. She's like,
oh yeah, she's pacing back and forth.
This,
that's right.
Smoking a cigarette, yeah, saying like, I'm gonna get the snowcat, we're gonna go this way. And then this is where Tony just starts yelling, red rum, red rum, red rum.
Yeah. And then that's whenever he's like, Danny's not here. And she's then talking to Tony.
Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance.
Yeah.
I like how Tony's so polite the whole time. Always calls her Mrs. Torrance.
Yeah.
Yes, Mrs. Torrance. Like,
I love how that's the little kid too. And so
how did this little kid not think anything weird of this
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. And so we have Jack going to the radio, and so he fucks with the radio. He takes out some chips or whatever, so it doesn't work. And yeah,
I guess at the same time he also breaks the snowcat, but we don't figure that out till later.
And so then we also, because I guess this is all, I don't know how fast this is happening, but we have Mr. Hallerman on a plane.
Yep, and it says we're at 8 a.m. at this point. We get the big flash, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Hallerman's flying out to them.
And
saying
so
they should land at 8:20.
Wendy goes to talk to Jack, and that's whenever she can't find him, and she finds his typewriter, and she sees all the paper, like so many pages, and it says, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Yeah.
And so different variations of, like, in different languages. Apparently Kubrick made different phrases basically to then make it make sense in other languages. So not all of them said all work and no play makes Jack a
dull boy.
Yeah. Where is it?
I get what you mean.
Yeah, there was one, like, basically like in one of them it was like something about it. It was a weird phrase. I was like, what the hell does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
I want to find it because it was so weird.
Something about you. But yeah, and so we have she's obviously like, this is crazy, like reading hundreds of pages essentially of the same thing written over and over, and she's like, I'm sure, like, in shock, like, I can't believe this is what he's been doing this whole time. And so that's whenever we have Jack coming in, and she's kind of like a deer caught in headlights, and she's like, oh my god, and he
like,
starts talking to her. Yeah. And so she just basically is just like saying that she wants to get out of there, and Jack wants to kill Danny.
Yeah, basically. I found the other lines.
Oh, what is
in Italian? The line reads, "The morning has gold in its mouth." In German, "Never put off until tomorrow what can be done today." And in Spanish, "No matter how early you get up, you can't make the sun rise any sooner." So he, like, changed the phrasing and different to make it, I guess, make sense.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes
those languages,
phrases don't
they
translate as well. And I guess being relevant.
They're all kind of different, though.
They are.
And they're like in their own way.
It was the Italian one that threw me off the most.
What is it?
The morning has gold in its mouth. What the fuck does that mean?
Like,
I don't know. That was why I was like, I have to find it because it was weird as fuck.
Oh my god.
What does that mean? I don't know.
I get it though. And so yeah, they're talking. He's saying that he wants to kill Danny. Basically, he wants to take care of the problem because he's like, what should we do about him? Yeah. And then that's whenever he starts coming for Wendy as well, and he's being an asshole to her. And so that's whenever she gets the bat, and she's like, they're basically getting to the stairs at this point, and she's the way she's finagling this bat so funny and trying to attack him.
Don't touch me.
And he's telling her to put the damn bat down. And finally she gets him a good little whack, and he falls and rolls down the stairs.
And it's the way that right before it, she's like, don't hurt me. And he's like, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in. I'm just going to fucking bash your brains in.
He gives
and
very
it's like,
unhinged.
He's like, but I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And it's like, ugh, so creepy.
Yes, you do. You want to. And so, yeah, we have then Wendy's dragging his body She's strong.
Yeah, she is.
And so then she takes him in and she locks him into the pantry basically as he's already kind of coming to, but she beats him before he can get up.
And the way that she's struggling with that lock, girl, she did look terrified.
Oh,
She did a phenomenal
Whenever
job
she
there.
was getting in, but I'm like, I know you've been cooking. You've been in this pantry a million times. What do you mean you don't remember that you have to?
Because then all of a sudden she was like, oh, right.
Yeah,
And
literally.
it was like, girl.
Literally. And so then the way she's going through it, the way she's with that knife, just kind of like listening to him yell at her.
Oh, God. And the way he's
trying to like
up.
manipulate her. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, come and let me out. I'm glad that she stuck to her
I think
guns.
you hurt my head real bad. I'm
Yeah.
feeling real dizzy.
Yeah. I love that she stuck with her guns. She's like, I'm going to leave now and I'm going to take to Danny, and we'll be back for you later.
And we'll bring back a doctor.
Yeah.
And then he goes, you've got a real surprise coming for you.
Because I fucked up the snowcat. Yeah, so they can't leave anywhere. And so then that's her face too. She's like, shit.
Yeah.
And so we have then
it was so much
all
snow.
of that. Yeah, there's
when
a lot
she
of
went
snow.
out there, it was like piled up. I mean, to the door. At least it kind of reminded me of Crimson Peak. Remember whenever they opened that door? That
Yeah, there's too much snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why anybody would want to live in an area where that
Where it
much
snows
snow
like
is
that.
a possibility.
It's too cold.
Like, why?
It's too much.
No.
You can't do anything. It shuts down everything. And so then we have Jack's in the
We get 4 p.m.
pantry.
It
Yeah,
flashes. And he's
and
in the pantry.
and that's when he's talking to
Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Grady. And basically, Grady's like, if you're gonna take care of this problem, I'm gonna let you out, basically.
And he says, your wife appears to be stronger than we imagined, which is interesting. I feel like at this point, maybe they were staying true to the book a little bit. And he says, she's somewhat more resourceful. She seems to have like outwitted you. And he was like, for the moment.
Yeah.
And then this is where Grady then goes, you have to deal with this in the harshest possible manner, basically saying like, you got to fucking kill them.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Without explicitly saying kill them.
Yeah.
It was like code. He was just being like, you know what you have to do.
Well, you know what that implies.
It gave me very like Amityville horror, which
I've never seen that one.
oh, that's right.
I gotta watch it.
We need to.
But yeah, so he's basically lets him out of the pantry so that way he can go and wreck some more havoc. And so and then we get I believe after that we get a shot of Dick and the snowcat. At this point, he's already had arrived. He had called someone and someone was going to help him get there. So
Yeah, I think that's when he passes the
wreck on the road. Yeah. And that's whenever we have, I think at that point, I think Wendy kind of gave up for a whole minute because she was just taking a nap. She was asleep, locked up in their room, and Danny's just saying red rum, like watching her. Yeah. And at that point, he goes and he grabs the knife. He's kind of being weird. And then he grabs the lipstick and he writes on the door, red rum. And that's whenever she wakes up, obviously to be creepy, and she sees the reflection on the mirror and it says murder with like the R spelled backwards.
And then it zooms in, it pans in, ding,
Literally.
on it, and it's like, oh, okay.
And so then we have Jack comes in. Basically,
he starts screaming
like,
red rum
honey,
louder
I'm home.
right before he doesn't say honey, I'm home. He says Wendy,
I'm home. That's right. Yeah.
Which is everyone
Mandela
thinks he
effect.
says, honey, I'm home, and it's not. Because I even
remember
thought
it being honey, I'm home.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you're right. He does
and
say Wendy, I'm home.
I remember like watching it and thinking like, okay, well, does he say it like later?
Yeah.
Too? And then nope, he never did. And so yeah, weird. He said, Wendy, I'm home.
And so
it's convenient that they had that little snow slide from that bathroom window.
Oh yeah. And so because he comes in there and they're trying to hide, they get into the restroom. She lets little Danny slide out of the restroom window, and it's the way she's trying to get out, but she can't fit apparently. Her hips too big. I don't know. I feel
think
like
it was her chest, even though she was so tiny.
Yeah, she couldn't get out. I was like, she probably could have tried a little harder, but whatever.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, girl, come on.
I felt like there was room, but anyways, she lets Danny out, and so then as she's like hiding in the restroom, we have Jack then chopping away at the door.
And he says, little pigs, let me come in. And he says, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your door in.
And then he eventually gets to breaking like a big old hole in the door, and he says the infamous line,
Here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny.
Which he apparently improvised. Wasn't actually in the script.
Gotcha.
But
and also, I'm like, but your name's Jack.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, what?
Who knows? And it would have like if Delbert Grady, if his name had maybe been Johnny or something. Like,
maybe.
I don't know, but it wasn't. So very confusing. Who knows?
Yeah.
But right as he then tries to unlock the door after he is and this was the door scene that I believe took 60 doors were harmed in the making of this scene. And yeah, she slices
and Shelley
his
as
hand.
well, because they had to do it so many times that like she was like distraught by this time. So that's what
Apparently
produced,
she started losing hair from the amount of stress of
I can
filming.
see.
Like her body was just like shutting down.
Yeah.
Which is just
That's
insane.
why she gave up acting.
Yep. It's just like it's just like in The Exorcist with
Linda Blair.
Yep. But basically, yeah. Anyways, so then Danny gets out and he goes and he hides in the kitchen, which is like, and then really fast, quickly, Jack seems to be there in the kitchen, walking around. And then, at this point, Hallerman comes in.
This is really sad because I'm like everything that he took for him to get there, and literally he just comes in and he's like, "Hello, hi."
Yeah,
Dead.
he's sitting there yelling
So
at him. I'm
fast.
like, homeboy, you know shit is going down. Why are you walking in screaming?
Yeah.
Come
He should have been
on.
a little bit more. I don't even know.
Apparently, the actor who played Hallerman did not know because in the novel he does not die.
Yeah.
In the original script, he does not die.
Yeah.
And so this was like they just at the last second decided to do
you're
it.
gonna die.
He was like he was very shocked upon his death scene. He was like, what?
Yeah.
This wasn't in the plan.
planned, yeah.
So that was interesting too.
Yeah, he's a jazz musician, the guy who played him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a
Oh,
jazz
how
musician.
fun.
Yeah.
Also like Babadook.
And so, yeah, really. And then, so many ties. After, he's obviously killing Dick. And so, Danny feels this because they share like a connection and Danny starts screaming. And that's whenever Jack is like, oh, I gotcha. And that's whenever he sees him come out of the little, he's in like a kitchen thing or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like those
little,
sterling silver.
It's like what they hid in Jurassic Park.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so he comes out of that and he starts running and that's whenever Jack goes chasing after him. And then finally they end up going outside, right?
Yeah, I believe Danny does run
at that
out
point,
to the
and then
maze.
he follows him. But then we also circle back to
Wendy running.
And that's whenever she sees the whole bear scene.
Yeah, the bear head. Because she hears people chanting upstairs.
Yeah, she hears all that. I was wondering too. I was like, wait, is she hearing what I'm hearing, or is that just like? But yeah, she was hearing that, right?
Yeah, and so she kind of was led up there, and then that's where we get the
in
iconic,
a
but
bear
also
suit?
like
What?
monster,
Giving
like
head?
bear head giving head. Yep. And I was like, was that to Grady? Was it Grady who was getting the head?
No, I don't think it was Grady.
No, it was just another random person. I did try to look up. I was like, what does the man in a bear costume giving a blowjob mean in The Shining? And basically, I don't know. Some people were just like, someone said it's from the novel.
Oh,
So, okay. But then in the words of Freud, no, this can't be right. But apparently Kubrick was obsessed with Freud and like Freudian ideology and stuff. And then this answer just says, and this is on Reddit, it says in the words of Freud, sometimes a man in a bear costume giving a blowjob is just a man in a bear costume giving a blowjob, which that obviously isn't the words of Freud.
Right, but I get what you mean. Like, there's nothing to it really than just like the obscenity.
Someone's
of it.
answer said, bears suck. That's why the bear was giving a blowjob.
And so obviously Wendy's pretty thrown off by this, and she gives one of those iconic like eye opening faces. What's up?
In the book, it's explained that the owner of the Overlook Hotel liked to throw wild parties, and he'd often dress up like an animal, and he was secretly a homosexual and would engage in secret gay affairs. Look, this is a gay icon movie too. Here we go. Sometimes he'd wear a mask, I suspect as some way of divorcing himself from what he's doing. And so in the book, the ghost sighting of the man in costume makes sense because it has context. In the film, it stands out as being really out of left field, as if maybe Kubrick shot the scene to give it context but never used it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Another queer movie. And so yeah, we have all that happening.
It is one of the iconic scenes in it though.
Yeah.
Like, you
Everybody remembers that.
Yeah, because it's so fucking weird.
Yeah, and even because his face was like yellow.
Yeah, it also looked like a boar.
It was weird.
It was not like a very typical bear mask, but it was very a bear like fuzzy suit that he was in. But yeah, it like the nose was like upturned in such a way that it almost looked like it had tusks. I don't know. Very odd.
I can see that though.
Yeah.
And so then after that, we have Nancy then also getting scared again because she goes downstairs, and that's whenever she's a skeleton scene. She looks in like the ballroom, and there's like nothing but like skeletons and dead people and like cobwebs.
She finds Hallerman's body first, and then turns around, and there's a bloody guy saying, "Great party, isn't it?"
Oh, that's right.
And who was that? Was that Grady or just another random person?
It was just a random person.
Okay, I was like, Grady looks like every white person that is shown up in this film.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, then the cobwebs and skeletons there, it does seem almost like kitschy. Like this is like the only like moment where this becomes like a horror film in the sense of horror in that day and age, and it seems almost cheap. And
it does.
Then she seems like the blood rushing in and stuff, and then she's running down that hallway. And the like juxtaposition of those two, a lot of people said that to go from how cheap that was and then to her running down that hallway made that so much more terrifying, especially to watch on the big screen. They said when they saw it when it came out, that it felt so cheap, and then it made you feel really in the moment with her there. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and that's the attention to detail that went into the movie. And then after that, she all that shit's happening. And finally, she makes her way outside. But we're also getting flashes into Danny and Jack outside going through the maze, because eventually Danny gets through that maze and Mr. Torrance is chasing him. And at a certain point, thankfully, Danny gets a little smart and like starts covering his tracks to like hide where he's going. But
there's conspiracy theories behind that too. I don't really remember what they were, but apparently that also was something that people looked into as well.
Damn.
Everything, every little thing. There was like a poster on the wall at one point where there was like a minotaur or something.
A minotaur.
Yeah, and they were like, "This is all about that."
I think I heard about that too, actually. And so, but he ends up finding him, and then we have Danny running again, and Danny ends up getting out of the maze, but then Jack is still lost in the maze, and we have Wendy finally going outside, and she sees Danny coming out of the maze, and then they get into the snowcat, and you can hear it turn on, and Jack hears it turns on, but he's still lost in the fucking maze, and he can't get out. He can't find his way out.
He can't find his way out of his own head.
Exactly. It's the analogy of like the descent into madness. And yeah, we have basically them escaping and surviving, and then we have a flash of him like literally frozen, and he's supposed to be dead.
Also an iconic scene.
Yeah, iconic. Him. And then after that, we get the flash of a long zoom pan into like a picture on the wall, and it's from 1921, I believe, or 24,
yes,
1921. And it's a party, some charity party ball.
The July 4th ball.
Well, July 4th ball. And
it's the way that it keeps zooming in on his face, like you couldn't tell that it was him already.
Yeah.
From
and then we have Jack Torrance literally there from 19. So that it's like a great movie until that last like 40 seconds, because then you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Was he here the whole time?
So
is he a reincarnation?
I tried to look up I was like, okay, what the hell is the meaning of the ending? Yeah, and that's how it ends. Yeah. So this article, it is on Collider. I don't know. But it says, The Shining is full of ambiguity from the start to finish. And it says, was Lloyd ever really there? Who is the lady in 237? What did she do to Danny? Why does Grady tell Jack that he is the caretaker? And it says, but the greatest mystery of all is that final shot of Jack at the Overlook Hotel in the year 1921. One of the more popular theories is that the Overlook absorbed Jack's soul after he died, claiming him as it did with the guests whose spirits are trapped in the hotel. Surprisingly, in a film where so much is left to interpretation, Kubrick actually explained that ambiguous ending. He said in an interview with French film critic Michael. Looks like cement. Kubrick said that the ballroom photograph suggests the reincarnation of Jack. We can assume then that Jack was originally a guest or possibly a staff member at the Overlook Hotel, which explains how Lloyd, the bartender, greeted him like an old friend, and why Delbert Grady claimed that Jack was always the caretaker. This would also explain that Charles Grady, the old caretaker who has infamously murdered his wife and little girls, was a reincarnation of Delbert Grady, or Jeevesy. It seemed that Jack has been and will always be trapped in the Overlook Hotel. So he'll just basically keep coming back.
That's crazy.
And history will keep repeating itself.
But this was the first time that he didn't kill somebody, though.
That's true.
Right.
Well, he did kill Hallerman.
Well, maybe that's enough blood sacrifice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Are we ready for the booze?
Yes. Yeah. There's. I'm trying to see if there's any other more fun facts that. I think we basically covered everything. I was looking at all of the. I had started taking like little side notes on everything that happened. Yeah. So, I think I covered all the weird conspiracy theories throughout. So, yay. Yeah, I think we're ready for booze then.
Drum roll. I would give The Shining a 4.8.
Why is that?
And rewatching it, I think it was just like a really good story. Like, I like how there's literally only 3 characters. There's really not that much that happens, but because of like, I personally really like the soundscape and like the music and like the build that it all kind of leads up to. It's a really slow burn, but
yeah, it's the first long movie.
Yeah. it's visually it's very pleasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like visually it's very pleasing. The storyline is good,
shot.
and it really, maybe I'm being biased just because like it's such a like popular movie or biased like classic, but like I don't know, it really does still give me the vibes of like, wow, okay, this is a really top-notch horror movie. Like it is. The acting by Danny, by Shelley, by Jack Nicholson. I love, you haven't seen Dr. Sleep.
I haven't.
And Dr. Sleep is like a continuation, and I love how this is basically the background for all that, because Dr. Sleep really gets way more into like all the shine and all of that stuff, and so it's a really cool like little like back foundation for all that, even though this was first the original concept. But yeah, it's really good. I liked it overall. I really enjoyed it, and I would obviously recommend it to anybody if they wanted to watch it. But I also get that it's probably not for everybody as well, because it's not like a make you jump 25 times or like have a lot of like momentum or action going. It's very much more like the dynamic of this family and what they're going through and what happens. Intellectual and what happens during isolation. Yeah.
It definitely is. I was incorrect earlier when I said that. I think I've said that Kubrick had a lot of like nods towards the Mask of the Red Death. King did. King had a lot of nods to him. What was I about to say?
Your rating, maybe?
Yeah, my rating. I agree, though. I do think I don't dislike the soundtrack. I actually did really like it. I think it was all well placed and exactly where it should be. The other thing was, so in the Timberland Lodge, they said that the original room was 217. And well, so 217 is where King stayed in the Stanley. But because of the exterior of the Timberland Lodge, they didn't want people to associate it with it. They did not want to be connected to it, basically. And so they made them change 217 to 237. But one of the moon landing theories or something was like, they were like, this is not true. It was actually because of this. And they were like, that's not true at all. And I was like, yes, it is. That is why they changed. That is why they changed it. That's like a pretty known fact.
The hotel just didn't want it to be like associated with like people being scared.
But this guy was like, no, it's because 237 is actually, and that's where he went into the moon room theory. And it was like, okay, dude.
That's a lot, yeah.
Anyways, but overall, this film was just absolutely gorgeous. Everything was amazing. The acting, like I said, if you take this away from the book, and it's been so long since I've read the novel, I would like to go back and reread it so that way I could have maybe a little bit more context. But if you separate it from that, it's a wonderful film.
Yeah.
In and of itself. And everything that just happens in it is so... it was very unlike, I feel, anything of its time. And
it's very
you're
cerebral.
right. It does go... It's a slow burn, but the time passes very quickly.
Yeah. And because you have to have that slow burn in order to watch like The Spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking
you can't just
of The Spiral, that is the film we're going to be watching next week. Now, not like a Jigsaw thing.
No,
it's 2019 is what it is. The Spiral. It's a Shudder original. Are you okay with watching that?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm down for it.
It's a really good, and it's also about a gay couple. So I was like, we could just keep tying into Pride. But really good film.
Will that episode come out during Pride Month?
Nope.
It's okay.
But it's okay. Our first one
Pride
maybe
all
wasn't.
year round.
Yeah, year round Pride. But for this film, I don't know.
What?
I'm trying to decide my boo rating. I really do like it. Maybe I'll go with a 4.8 too. Like as well. Sorry.
Okay,
a 4.8 as well.
4.8297664.
Because it is. I mean, it's a classic. It's well done. It is a film that does take multiple watches or viewings, but that is just kind of true to Kubrick himself. Yeah. His films are they're not intended to just be like taken at face value, which is why so many people kept thinking into it, which just, watch.
The more
I would recommend y'all watch 237 because it's just, it's almost ridiculous.
Yeah.
We were watching it this morning and I was like, what the fuck? Like, these people are reaching.
That's what people do though with conspiracy theories.
It was just so hard for me to follow. Like some of them, I'm just like, where the what? What the fuck?
I'm gonna go watch it.
But it was still entertaining. I was like, okay, cool. I mean, to see like how much people they were like literally watching it frame by frame.
There's so many interpretations that you could take. People, have their own already like imaginations going, and so mixing that. And
one guy even says, he was like, I don't know if at this point, he was like, at first I wasn't sure if I was right or if I was just seeing what I wanted to see and like creating the story. And then he goes, but then I knew I was right when the ball like rolled towards Danny kind of thing. And he went to room 237 and it said room and in capitalized, but the O wasn't.
Moon.
And he's like, the only two words that can come from this are moon and room.
I'm like, how? But okay.
Anyways, so 4.8 from your booze. Yeah. From
overall.
For Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. It is a classic. It's a beast.
You should watch it, you guys.
Monster of a film. I watched it on HBO Max.
I watched it on HBO Max as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So HBO Max.
Yeah, and we are at the Rogue Media Network Studios.
We are. We're in a side room today.
Side room.
Because we're moving.
Going through a little transition here phase, but we'll be in a new studio here soon that is supposed to be really spanking brand new and nice. So
Yeah,
we're
really
excited
cool.
about that. Make sure you check out all the other podcasts that are on Rogue Media Network, which you can check out at roguemedianetwork.com, like Poltergals, and there's a plethora of so many other ones on there as well.
So many
And
cool podcasts.
you can also listen to us on your like major streaming platforms, one being
Spotify.
and the other being Apple Podcast,
Uh-huh.
or wherever you like to listen to your podcasts.
But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
Rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right. Tell your friends, tell your neighbor,
Coworkers, tell everybody.
Tell your
write little notes and
cashier.
attach them to the little legs of pigeons and have them fly out.
Yeah, you can put a message in a bottle.
And send it across the Pacific, and
That's
hopefully someone will watch it on the other side.
Maybe a shark will.
Maybe. Oh, I love sharks. And yeah, make sure if you haven't already, please look us up on social media. Only one being Instagram, and that is at
Boobaes Podcast, and that is BOOBAES Podcast, and that's only 2 B's, not babes.
Yeah.
We're your boobaes, not your boobabes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, make sure y'all watch the movie. What was it called again?
Spiral. It is on Shudder.
Yeah, on Shudder, you guys.
It's kind of I've seen it once. I was going back, and because those of you, maybe some of you know that I used to have an old podcast called What's Your Excuse, and I knew that I had done an episode on the Stanley Hotel before, and so I was trying to go back and listen to it and just see like what little fun facts I had covered about the Stanley in general, and I guess right before recording that, I had watched Spiral. And so then I was talking about it on that episode. And I was like, oh, that was a fucking good movie. I did like it. And then looking it up. And so I don't think it got really great reviews. And it might not actually be that good watching it from this lens. I just know that the first time I watched it, first and only time I've ever watched it, I enjoyed it.
We're going to check it out.
I was like, oh, this is fucking weird. So cool.
Well, you guys, until next time.
Bye, bays.
Bye, bays.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.